Good morning, students. In last class, we have studied about the respiratory volumes. We have discussed the respiratory volumes and also here the external respiration, where here it takes place, the exchanging of gases are taken place. So, here exchanging of gases are taken place by the two membranes, two factors. One is called as the respiratory membrane and the second one is the partial pressures. So, here due to the partial pressures and the respiratory membranes, here it helpful for the diffusion of oxygen into the from alveolar, the walls of alveolar to the walls of alveoli to the into the walls of capillaries, alveolar capillaries or blood capillaries. Again, here diffuses from walls of blood capillaries, carbon dioxide is diffusing from capillaries to the alveoli. Here exchanging is taken place. Likewise, the partial pressures. Here due to the diffusion, here we will having the diffusion first the oxygen, it is diffuses from alveoli into the blood capillaries, where you will having the partial pressure of alveoli are 107 millimeter per Hg, and it is the blood capillaries is 40 millimeter per Hg. So, here from higher concentration to lower concentration, here it is diffuses with the process of a diffusion process is taken place. Likewise, from the carbon dioxide, partial pressure of carbon dioxide is more in blood capillaries or alveolar capillaries, where it diffuses into alveoli, where it is having less 36 millimeter per Hg, where it diffuses from blood capillaries to the alveoli, where here these are helpful for exchanging of gases. Likewise, the residue, that is respiratory volumes. Here the amount of air inhaled or expelled, it is calculated by an instrument called as spirometer or respirometer, and also it shows an instrument, that means here it shows a graph. The showing of graphs, the showing of the inspiration, that means during the inspiration or expiration, here what is the amount of air enters into the body. Here it showing a graph called as spirogram, where here will having the tidal volume to the inspirator reservoir volume, inspirator reservoir volume to the expirator reservoir volume, later inspiratory capacity, expirator capacity, residual volume, total lung capacity, as well as that is residual volume to tidal volume to the residual volume to the total lung capacities. So, these are the where we have discussed in the last classes. Now, coming to the next very important topic, it is a very important topic, that is a transportation of gases. Here the transportation of gases. So, how the gases are transported? So, here there are the transportation, in the name only indicating how the transportation of gases are taken place, that is from the lungs to the cells. The oxygen is carried from lungs to the cells, again carbon dioxide is carried from cells to the lungs, how these are transported. So, this process we can call as the transportation of gases. That means here the transportation of gases is taken place, the transportation of gases is taken place. Transport of gases are taken place by the exchanging of gases, exchange of gases from lungs to the, that means here from that is exchange of gases exchange of gases of oxygen from lungs to cells, and CO2 from cells to lungs. So this exchanging of gases or transporting of gases from lungs to the cells, these are transported, and again that is oxygen is transported from lungs to different parts, that oxygen is transported to different parts of the body in the form of cells, where the cells that oxygen is utilized. Again, what is the metabolical waste? That is the carbon dioxide, which is secreted from the cells, again that are carried by the blood and enters into the lungs, where that lungs, through the lungs, that is eliminated outside from the body. So how these are transported will be taken place. So here the transport of gases, that is mainly taken place for the exchanging of gases only. So that is mainly here there are two steps are presenting. One is called as the transportation of an oxygen. So first one is how that is the transportation of oxygen, and the second one is the transportation of carbon dioxide. These are the two steps where it takes place in the transportation of gases. So here it is taken place, the transportation of carbon dioxide will from cells to the lungs through the blood. That means here transportation of gases is taken place from lungs to cells through a blood. Likewise, the transportation of the carbon dioxide is taken place from cells to lungs. Through a blood. So here it is taken place, that is in the form of transportation. First is that is taken place by a transportation of oxygen. It is taken place from lungs to cells. These are taken place by the blood, as well as the carbon dioxide also from cells to lungs, that are carried through the blood only, that are carried. How here we will discuss in this topic, we will discuss firstly we will go for the transportation of an oxygen, and later we will discuss the transportation of an carbon dioxide, how they are transported in our body. From lungs to cells, again from cells to lungs, how they are transported. Now one by one will be discussed. Now coming to the first one, that is the transportation of an oxygen. So here the transportation of oxygen is taken place by the two methods. The transportation of the oxygen is taken place by the two methods. The first one is by a physical solution, and the second one is by the oxyhemoglobin. So these are the two forms or two process or two methods, or we can use here two process. By the two process here the transportation of oxygen is taken place. One is by the physical method, or otherwise you can call it as physical solution, and the second one is by the oxyhemoglobin. The transport of oxygen is taken place by in the form of an oxyhemoglobin. Now coming to the first one, by the physical solution, here it is taken place here by the transportation of the transportation of oxygen is taken place by the dissolving of oxygen dissolving of oxygen in water by 2 to 3 percentage, by the 2 to 2 percentage, but here it is that means oxygen is not be dissolved in the water, but it is dissolved in the plasma, in the plasma of a blood, that is 2 to 3 percentage of the oxygen is dissolved in the plasma of the blood where it is transported, but it is not readily dissolved in water. Here mainly that water is not be dissolving, it does not helpful for dissolving of oxygen in water, but it is dissolved in the plasma of the blood by the 2 to 3 percentage of the blood is dissolved in the plasma of the blood where that is transported to from the different parts of the cells only. That is mainly taken place by 2 to 3 percentage of blood by the physical solutions only, by the physical solutions only that are transported. That means 2 to 3 percentage of hemoglobin, that is oxygen, is dissolved and are transported into by the plasma of the blood to the cells. And next one, that is secondly, that is by the an oxyhemoglobin. Here oxyhemoglobin means oxygen is here the blood is mixed with, that means here a hemoglobin, here hemoglobin is an a respiratory pigment. In humans, hemoglobin, in humans hemoglobin, in humans hemoglobin is an respiratory pigment. It is an respiratory pigment. So this respiratory pigment which is presenting the hemoglobin, that hemoglobin will be absorbed by the an oxygen. Here that hemoglobin which is presenting, this hemoglobin is present in the an RBC. It is a respiratory pigment. It is in humans hemoglobin is a respiratory pigment present in an RBC, that is red blood corpuscles. So in the red blood corpuscles, hemoglobin which is presenting in here, hemoglobin consists of hemoglobin consists of 4 iron molecules. It consists of 4 iron molecule. So one molecule of hemoglobin will taken place the 4 molecules of the oxyhemoglobin by the oxy and hemoglobin. Why means here the 4 iron molecules are presenting, the 4 iron molecules it absorbs the oxygen. That is one iron molecule will absorb oxygen in the form of an oxyhemoglobin. So here will having it is a 4 iron molecule will absorbs the oxygen in the form of an oxyhemoglobin. So that oxyhemoglobin which is taken place, that means one molecule of hemoglobin will absorb the 4 molecules of an oxyhemoglobin is absorbed where that are transported into the through the blood, these are transported, and here the oxyhemoglobin is an unstable compound. Oxyhemoglobin is an unstable. Here it is an unstable compound. It is an unstable, that means it can be easily dissociated in the form of the oxygen plus a hemoglobin. So here when it is easily dissociated, so I means here due to the when it is transported to cells, in the cells here the carbon dioxide level is increased due to increasing the level of carbon dioxide, due to the due to the increase the level of carbon dioxide, what happens, the oxygen is easily dissociates and it is dissociates, again the hemoglobin molecule will comes to the lungs where that is transported, again that oxygen will be transported, will be taken place. So here due to the affinity of increasing the affinity of carbon dioxide in the cells, that is easily will be a dissociation is taken place, that is in the form of an oxygen plus a hemoglobin. Again that hemoglobin will enters into the lungs, again that carried the oxygen to different parts of the body. Here oxyhemoglobin, it is an that means here red blood cells which are presenting, that red blood cells consisting of hemoglobin, which is a respiratory pigment. So these respiratory pigment will absorb, will having 4 iron molecules, that means one hemoglobin will consist of 4 iron molecules are presenting. One iron molecule will absorb one oxygen molecule where it forms into an oxyhemoglobins. It forms into an oxyhemoglobins. So here Hb plus, if you say it's in here Hb plus 4O2, Hb plus 4O2 gives here HbO2O4. So here we will having, this is called as an oxyhemoglobin where it is easily dissociated. Easily dissociated is taken place. So here this is how the transportation of oxygen is taken place by the 2 methods. One is called as in the form of a physical solution, that is 2 to 3%, and here will be taken place in oxyhemoglobin. Here it is taken place 96 to 97% of hemoglobin. Oxygen is carried. Oxygen is transported or carried in the form of an oxyhemoglobin. In the form of an oxyhemoglobin, it will be transported, that is mainly 96 to 97% of oxygen in the form of oxyhemoglobin only. And here by the physical, that is a physical solution, here a transportation of oxygen is taken place by 2 to 3% only, that is dissolved in the plasma of the, that is dissolved in a plasma of the blood only. So now coming to the next one, if we coming to the next, that is an oxygen dissociation occur. How the oxygen is taken place, how they are transported, and how it shows in the curve. Here its curve will shows in the form of an S-shaped curve will be taken place in the an oxygen dissociation curve, where that are taken place on x-axis. It is taken place on the partial pressure of oxygen. On the y-axis it is taken place the stable compound, that is this stability of an oxygen dissociation is taken place. How that is now will be discussed, that is oxygen dissociative curve. Now coming to the an oxygen dissociation or dissociation curve, simple we can call that as ODC, that is oxygen dissociation curve. So here oxygen dissociation curve will be, that means oxygen dissociation curve will having the partial, it is depending upon the partial pressure of on oxygen. It is the partial pressure of oxygen, and also on it is taken place, it is mainly, it is the graph will shows the curve will shows mainly in by 2 factors. One is the partial pressures of an oxygen and the saturation of hemoglobin with oxygen. These are the 2 factors where they are presenting, where here it shows, that means on x-axis, on x-axis it is taken place on x-axis x-axis it is taken place by partial pressures, the partial pressure of oxygen, pressure of an oxygen, and y-axis will be taken place that is the saturation of a hemoglobin, saturation of a hemoglobin with an oxygen, that is taken place on a y-axis, where here it shows the curve in the form of an S-shaped a curve will be taken place, where here the oxygen dissociation curve will be taken place in the form of an S-shaped a curve will be taken place, where here that what is an oxygen dissociation curve means here increase the concentration of the partial pressures. If they increase the partial pressures, here increasing the partial pressures, here the saturation of hemoglobin with O2 can also be increases. This process is called as an oxygen dissociation curve. Here it shows the partial pressure of O2 will be 0. For example, if it taken place, the partial pressure of the pressure is 0. And the oxygen here is oxygen, oxyhemoglobin, that is oxyhemoglobin is also a 0 also. Otherwise, if we seen at a 26 millimeter per Hg, if it is taken place, the oxygen pressure or the percentage of HbO2, oxyhemoglobin will be the 50%. Here, when increasing the partial pressures, increasing the partial pressures are increases. Here the rate of the percentage, that is saturation of oxygen, that is saturation of hemoglobin with oxygen is also will gradually and increases. If the partial pressures are decreases, here when it is when partial pressures are leastly decreases, here it shows in the condition called as an hypoxia condition. Hypoxia means here the hypo means low, oxia means oxygen. So here low amount of oxygen, that means a defecation of oxygen is taken place. This condition we can call as an hypoxia condition. That means if gradually if partial pressures are increases, here the saturation of hemoglobin with oxygen also will be increases gradually. When it is that means, for example, if you take 26 millimeter per Hg, that is partial pressure of oxygen is 26 millimeter per Hg, then the oxygen pressure of an Hb, that is oxyhemoglobin will be 50%. As well as if it is at a 60 millimeter per Hg, it is in 89% of dissociation will be taken place, curve. And also here 90 millimeter per Hg, it shows 95% of the oxygen saturation of hemoglobin with oxygen will be taken place at a 95 degrees centigrade. If it is least, that is a partial pressures are gradually becomes a least level, then this condition we can call as an hypoxia condition. That means if partial pressures are decreases, then here it shows a hypoxia condition will be taken a place. And also here thus high concentration pressure affinity of hemoglobin also here will be is a higher, that means high oxygen level, affinity of high oxygen carbon is taken place. Here it is also will be the pressures also will be a higher in a conditions. And also we can say as a carrying capacity. Here we have to say as the carrying capacity. So what is this a carrying capacity means in a blade, if it taken place the 100 ml of blood is taken place, 100 ml of the blood is taken place. Here it is taken place, that is hemoglobin will be dissociated from 5 to 12 milligrams, or otherwise it may leads to the 20 ml of hemoglobin is dissolved in the blood. That is 5 to 20 ml of hemoglobin will be presenting. 5 to 20 ml of that is oxyhemoglobin is dissociated in 100 ml of blood, where it is called as a carrying capacity. That means what carrying capacity means, the amount, the blood which is presenting here, how much of amount of blood is carried by the oxygen, that is oxyhemoglobin by the blood. So that capacity is called as an oxygen carrying capacity. So here in 100 ml of the blood, here it takes place 5 to 20 ml of oxyhemoglobin is carried by the blood. So it passes to different parts of the bodies. So this condition is called as a carrying capacity. And also here another word we can say as the Bohr's effects. The Bohr's effect. So here what is the Bohr's effect means? Here when oxygen is carried, that means hemoglobin is carried the oxygen. When it is absorbs, that means hemoglobin is absorbs the oxygen in the form of an oxyhemoglobin, and in the form of oxyhemoglobin. So this oxyhemoglobin is transported to the tissues. So our cells are tissues, these are transported in the tissues. Here will having the tissues will consist of the high concentration of CO2 is presenting. That means in the tissues the concentration of CO2 is more is presenting due to the presence of more concentration of CO2. Here the oxyhemoglobin will dissociate into oxygen plus hemoglobin. Oxygen plus hemoglobin. Why it is dissociated means it is unstable. So here due to the high affinity of the concentration of CO2 in the tissues, here it easily dissociates into oxygen plus hemoglobin. It is dissociated. So that what happens here, oxygen and hemoglobin will be dissociated. That oxygen is unloaded. Here the unloading of oxygen by the carbon dioxide. So here again hemoglobin will carries to the lungs. So this effect, that means where it is unloading, the unloading of the oxygen to the tissues. So this condition, why means due to the high affinity of carbon dioxide, here it is dissociated into carbon dioxide, it is dissociated into oxygen and carbon dioxide, it is dissociates into the oxygen plus a hemoglobin, where that hemoglobin, that is oxygen which is taken place, that is easily absorbed by the cells due to the unloading. Again the hemoglobin will be transported or returns to the lungs to absorb the oxygen molecules. So this is the process how it is taken place. So here this effect, that means when oxygen, it is in the form of oxyhemoglobin transported to tissues, where in the tissues here due to the high affinity of a concentration of CO2, it is dissociates. That means oxyhemoglobin is dissociates into oxygen plus hemoglobin. This effect is called as a Bohr's effect due to the unloading of oxygen to the tissues, and again hemoglobin is returning to the lungs to absorb the another molecules of an oxygen. So this type of effect is called as a Bohr's effect, where here it shows in the form of an S-shaped curve. This curve is called as oxygen dissociated a curve, where here it shows in the form of an S-shaped curve. It is a partial, that is x-axis partial pressures, and y-axis it is taken place the saturation of hemoglobin with oxygen. So that here what happens, if the partial pressures are increases, the affinity of carbon dioxide, affinity of oxyhemoglobin also will be gradually and increases. That is, saturation of the hemoglobin with oxygen is also gradually will decreases when the partial pressures are and increases, where it shows in the form of an S-shaped curve. So we can call that as an oxygen dissociation curve. This is how the transportation of the oxygen is taken place in our body in the form of an oxyhemoglobin. It is in the form of oxyhemoglobin. In the 96 to 90%, 97% of oxygen is transported in the form of oxyhemoglobin, and 2 to 3% of oxygen is transported in the form of a physical solution, that is mainly that is dissolved in the plasma of the blood, not dissolved in water, that is dissolved in the plasma of the blood. So here oxygen is not be dissolved in water, it is dissolved only in the plasma of the blood, that is 2 to 3%, which is the transport to the cells and tissues. So this type of curve is called as an oxygen dissociation curve, where it shows in S-shaped curve. Next, coming to the next second one, that is the transportation of the carbon dioxide. Now coming to the second one, that is the transportation of a carbon dioxide. So here a carbon dioxide, the carbon dioxide is an waste, that is oxidative waste material, oxidative wastes, where that are transport, that are eliminated from our body, where from it is transported, it is transported from the cells to lungs. It is transported, it is the transportation of, that means the carbon dioxide is transported from cells or tissues to the lungs. These are transported. So, and it is an oxidative waste material, that means it is a metabolical waste which is produced. So here it is, if it is present in our body, here what happens, here it increase the concentration of carbon dioxide, where here it is carbon dioxide is combines with hemoglobin, where it is forms a bicarbonate or carbonic acid, where it is a high affinity to the hemoglobin. When it is carbon increases, here what happens, it kills the RBC level, so that should be eliminated. So here that is forming in the form of by a buffering agent, that is that is we can call as the hemoglobinic acid. Hemoglobinic acid is buffering agent, where it is neutralizes, which acts as a buffering agent to not kills the RBC cells. So here it is the transporters of oxygen is mainly taken place in the plasma. Both it takes place in plasma and also in an RBC cells. RBC cells, this is the taken place, that is the transportation of oxygen. But mainly the transportation of oxygen is taken place by 3 ways. It is taken place by 3 ways. By the 3 ways. It is the transportation of carbon dioxide is taken place by 3 ways. The first one is called as that is it is taken place by a carbonic acid, later carboamino compounds, and later it is in form of a carbonic acid, that is a bicarbonate ions. So here in the transportation of it is taken place, that is in plasma. In a plasma, here a 10% of carbon dioxide is dissolved in the form of dissolved in the water, the water of a plasma, in the water of a plasma of a blood to form a carbonic acid. It forms a carbonic an acid. It is taken place, that is CO2 plus an H2O. Here it combines with an H2CO3. That is we can call as the carbonic an acid. So this carbonic acid, which is 10%, it is dissolved in the form of in the plasma, that is in the form of a carbonic an acid. Next, in the RBC, in an RBC, in the RBC here, a 20% of a carbon dioxide, a 20% of carbon dioxide is dissolved in RBC. 20% of RBC, it is dissolved in the, it is 20% carbon dioxide is combined with not dissolved, it combined with the amino group of hemoglobin to form carboamino hemoglobin, it is converted. That is, a 20% of carbon dioxide is combined with the amino group of hemoglobin to form a carboamino hemoglobin. That is, here it can be designed as HbNH2 plus CO2 gives rise to HbNH2 gives rise to HbCO2, that is the carboamino hemoglobin, HbCO2. That is, we can call that as a carboamino hemoglobin. Here it combines with a carboamino hemoglobin, and remaining 30%, remaining in the remaining, that is 70% of CO2 is combined. It is combined with the 30%, 70% carbon dioxide is combined with the here 70% of carbon dioxide is combined with the water present in RBC to form carbonic acid, an acid. So here, so here 70% of carbon dioxide is combined with water in an RBC, where here it forms the carbonic an acid, it is taken place. It forms a carbonic an acid, where here, so here the 70% of that is the 70% of the CO2, the 70% of the CO2 is combined with the RBC. That means the water in the water of the RBC, where to forms a carbonic an acid, where in the presence of, that means carbon dioxide is combined with water to form a carbonic an acid, to form a carbonic an acid in the presence of an enzyme called as the carbonic anhydrase. So with the help of an enzyme, the carbonic anhydrase, here it is converted into a carbonic an acid. So this carbonic acid is the carbonic acid which is presenting, it is an unstable, where it is dissociates into H plus and HCO3 minus, that is it is converted into a bicarbonates. It is converted into a bicarbonate. So here that is H2CO2, that is carbonic acid, is an unstable compound where it is easily dissociates into H plus and HCO3 minus, that is a bicarbonate ions. These are converted into a bicarbonate ions. But here when dissociating here H plus ions which are presenting, the H plus ions which are presenting here increase the level of H plus ions. It helpful for the killing of the red blood cells. So to buffer that, here H plus ions combines with hemoglobin, combined with hemoglobin to form hemoglobinic an acid where it buffers. That means when H plus ions are the concentration of here HCO2 plus H2O give rise to HCO3, that is carbonic acid, where it is dissociates into H plus and HCO3 minus. This H plus will combines with hemoglobin, that is hemoglobin to form a buffering agent. When means here H plus concentration is increasing, it helpful for killing of the RBC cells present in the body. So that what happens here, it is combines with hemoglobin to form a hemoglobinic an acid where it acts as a buffering an agent. And later that carbon dioxide, that means it is dissociate into the bicarbonate ions. So this bicarbonate ions combines with the sodium and potassium. It is combines with that means a bicarbonate ions are combined with the sodium and a potassium. It is combined with the sodium and a potassium. So here it forms into sodium a bicarbonate as well as a potassium a bicarbonate. So here it is Na plus as a HCO3 minus give rise to NaHCO3, NaHCO3. That is the sodium a bicarbonate ions. Likewise K plus HCO3 minus give rise to KHCO3. It is a bicarbonate, that is a sodium potassium bicarbonate as well as the sodium a bicarbonate. Again when it is taken place, that means here the bicarbonate ions which are presenting, these are impermeable of a positive elements. So it is an impermeable of a positive elements or positive natures, that is a positive elements are, these are impermeable of positive elements. So that what happens here, the movement of ions from a plasma to the RBC, from plasma RBC to the plasma, that is the bicarbonate ions present in RBC, that is in plasma, in RBC, that is moves towards the plasma, and in the plasma the chloride ions are presenting. Why means here their affinity, that means chloride ions are movement will be taken place. Here no positive elements are not be allowed into the a plasma, that is RBC. So that what happens here, negative ions which are presenting the chloride ions, to neutralize this a positive, that is negative ions, that is bicarbonate ions, here chloride ions will move from a plasma to the RBC. So this type of shifting, that is shifting of chloride ions from plasma to the RBC, again from RBC to the plasma, this type of shifting is called as a chloride shift. That means shifting of the shifting chloride, we can call as a chloride shift. What is a chloride shift means? The movement of ions from plasma to RBC, again RBC to a plasma. So again here RBC to plasma, again plasma to RBC. Here the shifting of the chloride ions. Why means here it does not allow the positive ions. So here to neutralize that means here chloride ions are movement is taken place from an RBC to the plasma. So it is our negative. So positive elements are not be allowed. So to neutralize that the chloride ions will move from an plasma to the RBC. So that shifting of RBC, that means shifting of chloride ions from a plasma to the RBC, from RBC to the plasma. So this type of shift is called as the chloride shift, or otherwise it is called as an Hammerberg phenomenon. It is also called as an Hammerberg phenomenon. It is called as a Hammerberg phenomenon. Why it is called as the Hammerberg phenomenon means it was introduced by the scientist called as an Hammerberg. So instead of his name we can call that as the Hammerberg phenomenon, where that is shifting of the chloride ions from RBC to the plasma, again from plasma to the RBC. Likewise the chloride ions will move, bicarbonate ions are moves from RBC to the plasma, again from plasma to the RBC. That movement is taken place, so that neutralizing the chloride ions. So this type of shifting from the chloride ions are moving from and plasma to the RBC, from RBC to the plasma. So this type of shift is called as the chloride shift, or otherwise it is called as an Hammerberg phenomena, where here in the presence of this bicarbonate, that is here bicarbonate chloride protein, with the help of a protein called as a bicarbonate chloride protein, it is taken place. So it is in the presence of these it is taken place, where the movement is taken place from a plasma to the RBC, from RBC to the plasma. So we can call that as a chloride shift. How like this the movement of the transportation of gases, that is carbon dioxide, is taken place from tissues or cells to the lungs, where it is dissolved in three forms: 10% in the form of carbonic acid, and remaining 20% in the form of amino hemoglobin, and the third one is in the form of a bicarbonate, that is combines with water of RBC to form a carbonic acid, where it easily dissociates into H plus and a bicarbonate ions. So this is how the exchange, that is the transport of gases are taken place in our body, that is in humans. That is mainly it is taken place in the form of two structures, that is two factors or two ways. One is the transporters of oxygen in the form of an oxyhemoglobin, and the second one is the transporters of oxygen, the transporters of carbon dioxide by the three ways. So this is how it is a very important concept, that is explain how the transportation of gases are taken place. Mainly here will taken place how the transportation of carbon dioxide is taken place in our body, that is explain the transportation of carbon dioxide, or otherwise how explain the transportation of oxygen and oxygen dissociation curve also. So this is a very important concept, though it is the topic of the transportation of gases. So in next class we will discuss that is the controlling of hormones. That means what are the nervous system, that means the nervous, not nervous, the hormones which are stimulated the respiratory system. What are the hormones are stimulate the respiratory system, and also lastly we will discuss about the disorders which are present in the respiratory system. One is asthma, second one is emphysema, and the third one is an occupational occupational disorders. So, these are the 3 types where we will discuss in the next class, that will be discussed in the next class. Thank you.